What is going on, YouTube people? Northeast Ohio Cards and Comics here for another Sunday week in review. Little catch up on news, dig into some charts and graphs, touch on all three major markets. Don't forget to like, comment, sub, all the YouTube's nonsense down below. At the time of recording of this video, I am like 13 subscribers away from 10K. So maybe we'll be ripping a box of G.I. Joe Impel 1993 here in the early part of this week. Maybe Monday or Tuesday. We'll see. See what happens over the next couple days. Or maybe by the time this video posts even. I don't know. I'm recording this Saturday night before Georgia Clemson. So we'll see what happens overnight and through tomorrow. But once we hit 10K, we rip the box of G.I. Joe. Long running joke on the channel. News-wise this week, I mean, like the Fanatics thing came out. I talked about that already. I think a lot of people are getting a little too overworked up about the Fanatics stuff. We just don't know yet. I mean, yeah, stuff's leaking out, but we still don't know how any of it's going to work. You know, what does direct to consumer look like? You know, are they still going to keep card shops in the loop? It's all speculation really at this point, which, you know, I'm guilty of specking on it too. We all are, but I think just to go straight to doom and gloom tinfoil hat territory is a little abrupt. Like, let's, you know, a lot of people are like, oh, it's over, they're going to kill it. I guess my take on it is you don't spend that much money on something just to kill it, but big companies have done dumber things before, so who knows? Who really knows? PSA data came out for the month of August from Gemrate. We talked about that earlier this week as well. They seem to be pumping stuff out again, and all signs seem to be pointing towards a return to regular orders in October. Maybe the 1st of October. Don't know. We'll see. Still up for debate. Couple trade nights coming up this month. Ryan at Card Collector 2 is running his trade night later this month on the 17th, and One of One in Cleveland, Ohio. Shop I've been to once, but I've met their people quite a few times across different events. Good people. They are running their trade night on the 18th, the day after Ryan's, actually. So dueling trade nights, and also I have a local card show that weekend as well. So that should be a very busy weekend indeed. Yesterday was the Xenia, Ohio show. I did not go down to it. On Saturday, I had some family stuff for Labor Day this weekend, and that's quite a drive for me that I just didn't want to commit to. I heard it was a little bit smaller this time around, but people can chime in. I'll be curious to see the Cleveland shows around here kick back up again this month. They take summers off, so I'll be curious to see what the trade scene looks like and the card show scene looks like. After August was a very heavy show month around here, and I think people were getting a little fatigued towards the end of it. So I will most likely be attending Card Collector 2's trade night and One of One's. I'm not 100% sure yet. I'm not fully committed, but I would like to. I am planning on it, but we will see what happens. A lot of stuff's going to be going on at work the next couple months, so we'll see what happens there. But yeah, other than that, you know, that's pretty much it for the newsy stuff this week. You know, NFL season starts this week. We'll see what happens there. It's the first sport we're going to talk about here when we dive into the charts. So tomorrow's video is a comic book related video, but I actually have a guest on. It's David from Comic Book Investments. I've talked about his channel before. Highly recommend checking it out. We had a really good talk just about, you know, collectible investing, comic book market, how it kind of parallels the sports card market. So even if you're not into the comic book stuff per se, you might get some value out of it. Went about 50 minutes, I think, almost an hour. He has a great YouTube channel, though, so once again, I highly encourage you checking him out, but you'll see him on my video tomorrow that was recorded on Friday. Great discussion with David, really cool guy. First time I met him in a one-on-one setting. So, but with all that being said, let's go ahead and dive into market movers and look at some charts and graphs for the week. If you want to check out market movers yourself, link in the description below, 20% off coupon code, all that fun stuff. First up, football. I pulled this out 2 weeks just to kind of get a better feel for it. Pretty much the same thing. Not much really going way up. Not much really going way down. Kind of just staying within the margin of error, as I like to call it. And we're going to talk about a few individual players here in a second. We'll just kind of scroll through this. And once again, 14-day chart, PSA 10s. rookie cards only. Josh Allen paper Donruss up a little bit. A few things down a little bit. Once again, you see the percentages over here in this left-hand column. I'll zoom in a little bit here for you guys and girls. Not a lot of changes. Nothing crazy. Drew Lock, one of the big fallers, not surprising. Joe Burrow up a few percent. Daniel Jones down a couple percent. Russell Wilson, we'll talk about him in a second. These paper Donruss, once again, always doing well on the charts. I don't know what it is about paper Donruss and football. But just scrolling through here, Dwayne Haskins, he got third string quarterback, so no surprise there. But not anything major popping off in this lead up to the season. And this is ranked by number of sales. And you can see once again, paper Donruss just crushing. Number 1 is Josh Allen. Number 2 is Kyler Murray. Number 3 is Justin Herbert. Number 4 is Saquon Barkley. It's just crazy to me that paper Donruss does that well. I don't know if it's just because there's that more pop on those versus the Prism stuff, or what the deal is. I'd be a little concerned about Saquon Barkley. I have a feeling, 1, I don't like investing in running backs anyway. 2, it sounds like they're really going to baby him the first part of the season, and I could see him putting up very low, non-sexy numbers, and people getting scared off by that and dumping. I'm not big on buying in the position players anyway, but if I had him, I would definitely be a little worried carrying him in the season, just because I think they're going to baby him for the first little bit. Looking at a few individual players that kind of really popped off, Teddy Bridgewater continues to climb after his rise last week from being named the starter. This is I did run this one back 2 weeks just to give us a little bit more data on it, but this is his PSA 10 Topps Chrome. Only 135 of these, so really not a lot in a PSA 10. This over the last 2 weeks is up 66% from $80 to almost $140. So a nice run up there for Teddy Two Gloves. We'll see what happens once the season actually starts. He was okay last year, maybe another year removed from the whole knee situation. And, Denver has a lot more weapons on it than Carolina did. So we'll see. Jerry Jeudy's been getting a lot of buzz for fantasy purposes. Cortland Sutton's pretty exciting for fantasy purposes coming off an ACL. They don't really have the best running game in the world, but we'll see what happens there. If you have Teddy Bridgewater and you were into him for the cheap, in my opinion, you should probably be selling. Just take the profits and run. Don't risk him, something bad happening in season. Russell Wilson, PSA 10 Topps Chrome. We actually talked about this card. I think it was last Saturday. I did that video where this one appeared pretty cheap, and it has gone up a little bit since. It started off at 500, got up to 665, so up 30% in the last. This is a little over 14 days, a little under 14 days on this one. So his stuff is definitely on the way up, it appears like. So he got a little run up. But once again, he kind of stood out as a guy that was way too cheap before the season started. When you looked at his prices in comparison to his peers, his stuff just seemed way too cheap compared to what other guys were selling for. The other big riser of the week was actually Aaron Rodgers. This is his 2005 Topps paper, 50th anniversary. About 2K pop on these, closer to 2,100. This had a pretty nice run up. Once again, 2-week chart here, up 26% from just under 800 to just up to exactly 1K. So we'll see what happens when this gets in the season. They should have a pretty good year. We'll see what happens. He's another one. Like, this isn't that much more expensive. Well, at the $800 price, like, that really isn't that much more expensive than what like a Justin Herbert Prism goes for. A couple $100, but still, in the grand scheme of things, which one would you rather have? Obviously, now at the more higher price, it's a little bit different story. But Rodgers, A-Rod got a little bit of a run up there. Also been pretty buzzy in the world of fantasy. Next up, let's talk about basketball a little bit. The NBA market is definitely showing signs of life. I know Flipping Steve's been talking about it. I've mentioned it in some things. It seems like it's different players are getting a little buzzy, and then their prices are popping. And then they kind of just flatten out and kind of hold steady at whatever the new level is. It happened with KD. It's happened with Luka. It's happened with Trae Young. We're starting to see it with some Tatum stuff we'll talk about in a second. In general, I do feel like if you believe in a particular NBA player and they haven't seen a price spike yet, I do think now's the time to hop on board. And depending on the player, If it's already gone up some, there still may be time to jump on board. It just depends on who it is. I do think NBA is going to pick up here shortly after the NFL season kicks off, because we're legitimately not that far away now from NBA training camps open up in 4 weeks. Like, that's going to be here before you know it. The season is basically 8 weeks away. I forget exactly when opening night is, but like the NBA season is just around the corner. Like, it's really not that far away. So I do think if you want players, now is the time to buy. I think people's eyes are going to start shifting to that market. That being said, we'll talk about this in a second. I think from a buying opportunity standpoint, and I said this on Dakota's live stream on Friday, or after the fantasy football draft, and I've said this a few other places. I think the end of October, like around when the NBA season is starting, I think there's going to be some really good deals in football for anyone that is struggling or starts slow or gets injured or whatever. I think there's going to be a very interesting buying opportunity window for anyone that comes out of the gates slow about week 4 to 6. I have a feeling. The other thing that's beginning to get interesting to me is some baseball guys. There are a lot of players that are not headed towards the playoffs that are dipping. Vlad's interesting to me. Bo Bichette's interesting to me, and some other ones that their prices are starting to get pretty cheap. That if you're willing to buy it and just sit on it until March, I think you do pretty okay. So I'm very intrigued by the baseball market here very quickly as well. It's going to be a boring buy it and then kind of stash it away for 6 months play, but I think it's pretty safe if you buy the right players. So not to derail from basketball, but that's kind of where my head's going over the next 4 to 8 weeks in regards to things I'm looking for. Right now, I'm looking to build the bankroll back up again because I spent most of the fun money pile on Giant Size X-Men #1 this past week. That video dropped yesterday, obviously, but that was wanted to get that monkey off my back, so I went ahead and ripped that Band-Aid off. In general, the NBA market is just ever so slightly creeping up. The number 1 and number 2 player on the list are Zion and Ja, base Prism PSA 10, followed by Zion base Mosaic and Luka base Prism. We haven't seen these 4 on the top of the charts in regards to number of sales in a while, and I did run this back 14 days as well, just to give us a little bit more data. Not much in the way of changes, but what do you notice? Just very small creep ups. It's not much, but 1% here, 4% here, 6% here. These little 2, 3, 4% every week, every 2 weeks start to add up, because then when you all of a sudden look out at a 3-month view, it's like, oh God, these guys went up 25, 30%. Where did that come from? You're not seeing these big escalation price spikes, except for guys like KD and stuff, where, they had the Olympics to kind of spur it. The non guys that were, in the Olympics or whatever, you're just seeing these very, very slow buildups, and they're sneaky. They could easily slip past you because they do add up. Once again, scrolling down here, you see little downward swings. Rui down 12%, Kobe White up 8%, Trae Young down 11%. Is a little intriguing, but not like a huge. It's basically been floating around $300. Luka base Donruss. But just scrolling down, you don't see large numbers here. And this is looking at 2 weeks. 1%, 7%, 3% up, 8% down. 8% up, 16% up on Michael Porter Jr., Devontae Graham up 40%, LaMelo Ball base hoops up 18%. So, you're seeing some positive trends. Sekou got a little bump from the trade to the Nets. I wouldn't buy that hype. If you had some Sekou you were looking to offload, now might be a good time, because I just don't think he's going to get a lot of playing time there. He intrigues me as a player, but that's just such a long-term hold. I don't think it's worth it. Some individual players that have kind of really shot up this week on individual cards. Optic Hollows seem to be getting a lot of love lately. I know Steve's been talking about them a lot. I'm obviously a massive fan of Optic Hollows. I think they're probably one of the most underrated cards in the sports card market. But here's SGA's. His saw a pretty big bounce this week. This is a 14-day chart as well. 4 have sold, went from 455 to 675, up 48% in a 2-week period on his Optic Hollow PSA 10. And another one that really got some buzz, and once again, another one Steve's been talking about, Jason Tatum Optic Hollow PSA 10 over the last 2 weeks, getting a nice run up as well. Started out at around $800, is all the way up to 1,100 for a 32% increase. That's almost $300 in price change. Once again, I think Optic Hollows are criminally underrated. If you could find some players that have not seen big increases yet, I think they are very interesting plays. They are extremely low pop. They are very tough grades. And they are damn good looking cards, especially on 18 and 19. 17 looks okay. 18 and 19 to me look really, really good. So I am a big believer in Optic Hollows as a more long term play slash low pop play. I do think that they have the ability to have decent demand because it's a silver, but they're great looking cards and they have a little bit of history to them. And I'm a sucker for the rated rookie logo. Always have been, always will be. Mentioned baseball earlier. The baseball market is just in a really weird place right now. This chart here is PSA 10 Topps Chrome refractors, or just refractors in general. I just kind of did this to get kind of a feel for it. Lou Bob up a little bit, upward up to $200 now. Not surprising. He's been playing really well since coming back. White Sox are a lock for the playoffs. They should go pretty far. Fernando Tatis, we'll actually talk about him in a second. His had a pretty big jump. Jordan trending down slightly, but he's been playing really well. Jordan just does not get the love, and he's having an insane season. Vlad Jr. up a little bit after he kind of bounced down. Like I said, he's one I'm really keeping my eyes on. This is at 350 right now. I would love to see this thing keep creeping down a little bit. It spiked up a little bit, but I have a feeling that's going to keep going down. Bo Bichette's another one that I have my eyes on. Eloy, slightly up. Once again, been playing really well since coming back. Let's get into some individual charts here. Otani saw a little bump this week, just ever so slightly. Up 10%, $65 change on his PSA 10 Topps Chrome Refractor. Up to $800 now. He's a lock for the AL MVP at this point. It's a shame his team sucks, and he's not going to the playoffs. Trout's probably going to get shut down for the year, so that's pretty much a wash. I'll be interested to see what happens to his prices once the season ends. The MVP is very much baked into his prices at this point. So once his season officially is over, I'm just very curious to see how big of a hit his stuff takes. It could be an interesting buy-in on the dip, as he'll be hyped to start next season as a fresh season. But we'll see. We'll see. He is one of the players that I am most interested to see what their prices do in the MLB offseason and in this wind down to the season here as we enter September. Next up to bat, no pun intended, Acuna Jr. PSA 10 refractor. This got a nice little bump up this week from 370-ish to 475, basically a $100 bump, 30% increase. And once again, I think this is just people starting to run this card up as he begins to progress through his injury and people wanting to buy in on the low. I think this is one of those cards that it gets to certain price points and then spikes back up again, and then kind of people forget about it. It goes down a little bit, and then people remember, dive back in again because they see the price dip. I would be worried about Acuna for a long-term hold just because of all the injury problems, and is he still going to run? But I think if you can make some smart buys on dips in the offseason and then sell it in the run-up the next season, I think that would be a pretty interesting and safe play. The other one, Fernando Tatis, he saw a pretty decent bump this week, up 13%, which is an $88 swing on his PSA 10 Topps Chrome Refractor from 670 up to 550. So he's seeing a nice little run up there as well. Tatis, probably one of the best young players in the league, in my opinion. Another one I would be interested to buy some more of. I only have 2 of his cards, 3 of his cards. Not a lot. 1 refractor and then some base Topps Chrome of his. I wouldn't mind getting some more of him if prices dip. I don't know if they will or not. I'll be curious to see how that's handled in the offseason as well. As he's probably scheduled to get shoulder surgery to get that thing straight. So then hopefully he can go in the next season and not have any problems. That's all I have for you guys this week with the charts and graphs. So like I said, tomorrow, an interview with David from Comic Book Investments. So once again, I highly encourage you to check that out, even if you're not necessarily a comic book guy or girl. There is a lot of good information in there that I think you could pull out and address to other markets. And if you're, maybe new to comic book investing or curious about it, we do cover some of that stuff as well in regards to, different ages, what grades to look at, the the problems with specking on modern variant covers, that sort of stuff. So really great conversation. Once again, I highly recommend checking out David's channel. Other than that, content for this week, I'm not sure beyond Monday's video. I don't have anything planned beyond that, so it'll just be whatever pops into the old noggin between now and then. I'd like to do some sort of football off season now that we're basically at the start of the season. Run stuff back, see exactly when football prices spiked in the off season from the end of last season. Pretty much most of the data says it's the NFL draft, basically, was when the prices actually spiked in the off season, and it's been a pretty good pullback since then. But I want to dig into the data on that and look at a lot of key players and see what the charts look like. And I don't know if we could draw anything from that or not. We'll see. There's the best time to sell now during the draft and not the run up to the season. So probably a couple NFL videos in lieu of, or to get in before the season starts. Maybe a little NFL prediction video, and then we'll see what else pops into the old head or what company does what stupid thing this week that requires me to pivot and make an emergency video on it. It seems like there's been a lot of those lately. So everyone have a great holiday. Have a great Labor Day. Like, comment, subscribe. Be safe out there. If you're not subscribed, hit the sub button. Let's get this thing over 10K so I can get that monkey off the back and rip this box of G.I. Joe that I've been sitting on for a year that I suddenly turned into the 10K live stream. So once again, you guys have a great holiday weekend. Catch you guys and girls on the next one. Peace.